Hey guys, Fearu here, and we are on episode number 25. We're going to go in a little bit of reverse order today. What we're going to do is we're going to be talking about the laning stage, and we're going to start with the very, very end of it. And what we're going to do is look at how lanes actually develop and figuring out where your lane is in the game and start kind of classifying your lane so you can get a better idea of what you should be trying to do. Then, after that, we're going to go and start seeing if we can predict what our enemy teams are going to do to better decide, who should actually go to what lane. What's the best lane setup for my team? As opposed to, oh, I'm playing the hard carry, I want to go short lane bottom. Let's actually take a minute and think, okay, what are they going to do? And then, okay, well, if they're going to do that, what's the best way for us to counter that? And instead of just going, oh, I want to be in this lane right away. So let's start off, and the first thing we're going to do is classify how our lane has developed. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, so here we are in game, and we have an Emerald Warden and Cthulhu Font top. And basically, the lane that they're playing in is going to be pretty standard, and it's usually how most lanes start. And it's basically in this lane right now with the Bubbles Jeremiah versus the Emerald Warden and Cthulhu Font. Every single creep for XP is being contested. Might be denied, might be last hit. There's no clear winner by any means. This lane is just in full contention. Anyone can win this. It's still waiting to be developed. With both these people here, that's where it lies. It lies in the most even footing ever. If we look bottom here for a second, we will see Hag is versing a Sandwraith Slither. Now, this is not a contested lane. These last hits are going to Sandwraith. There's nothing you can do about this. But Hag is staying in XP range, which is his goal. And he's going to play Ring Around the Rosie with this Slither. And going to be able to stay in XP range. But the point is, he's able to get some use out of the lane. He's able to get the XP out of the lane, even though he isn't contesting for last hits or denies. But he is going to be able to get some use out of it. It's not completely useless, and he's not really risking dying. With his escape abilities. And then that brings us to the last type of lane, which I will show you now. Okay, so this is a situation very similar to the last one we saw. Wretched Hag is just trying to maintain experience to get something out of this lane. But what's going to happen is it's actually going to develop into that third stage, which is where you actually lose control of the lane. And what's going to happen is it gets to the point where Wretched Hag can no longer even be in the lane without being at risk of dying, and can't even really get that experience. You'll notice, she's already behind in a solo lane. They're both level 2, and so is she, which happened from excellent boxing out by Polywog to keep her out of experience range early on, and denying her placing the ward at the pole camp. So what ends up happening is they have a legionnaire in the jungle, and he's going to pull for them. And as this lane develops, we're going to see that she's just going to be unable, from mistakes, you can argue, to be in this lane at all. She's going to lose quite a bit of health here, and you need to recognize as this happens to your lane, she can't come back at this point. If she comes back into this lane, even one nuke from Moon Queen, or even just a tongue tie from Polywog is going to end up killing her. So she has to recognize that this lane, is no longer helpful, and you need to recognize the development of your lanes and what stage they're at. Okay, so while I said there were 3 stages, there ends up being 5 total, because what happens is 3 is contention, right? And 1 is going to be awful, 5 is going to be awesome. 1 and 5 are essentially the same things. It just depends if your opponents or you have full advantage of the lane. So 1 and 5 respectively are, 5 would be you have full control of the lane, they can't even get an XP range. And then 1 would be they have full control of the lane, you can't get an XP range. And then 2 and 4 are respectively, 4 is you have control, but they're still in XP range, and then 2 is they have control, but you're still in XP range. But the reason you need to recognize the way a lane develops is as soon as it starts to go one way on the scale, typically it continues to fall down that line. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you look at that last play, Hag started at 2, and it does exist. She can go to 3. But she has to do something. Something has to occur for that to happen. If she starts to fall, and that's what happened, was she'd lost control of the lane from misplay, whatever. That's fine. I'm just talking about what happened. How did the lane develop? Once you start to lose control, she's not going to suddenly be able to come back in 5 minutes and go, oh, hey, you know what? I'm able to start contesting for last hits. No, it's only going to stay the same. It's only going to get worse. And if you stay in that lane and you don't ask for help or help doesn't come, or you don't go to roam, you're only causing your team more harm than good, because you're not able. The longer you maintain a lane that has an advantage for your teammates, or your opponents, I should say, you're only going to increase their lead, which is awful. That's not what you want to do. So I'm going to show you how some of these lanes develop and exactly what I mean.
Regeneration.
Okay, so here we are back in this Hag lane, and I wanted to kind of show you how this lane developed. Typically, something I try to do is get lane control when I'm playing Suicide to keep the lane pushed as close to this tower as possible, but Sandwraith actually dived, which was really surprising, so I'm going in on the Sandwraith with hoping to get help from my Parasite, and what's going to happen is Sandwraith does some good juking, just really good juking, to be honest, or maybe I played bad, whatever combo you want to give it. It's going to get away with just barely no health. I'm going to try to blink, but I was way too late, and I almost die here. But looks like I'm just barely going to be able to get away. Thank God. And I'm going to go pick up some last hits. What happened is I didn't actually maintain sight, and Slither is going to make a big play here in a second. I'm going to go back to the well, but little do I know, Slither's right here looking for that gank, and he's going to get the kill. Poor play on my part. I should have had vision. C'est la vie. There's nothing you can do. But what I need to realize now is I don't have control. If I come back here, level 4 Hag versus level 4 Sandwraith and level 4 Slither, it's just not happening. So what's going on is I'm going to ask for help from this Parasite to help reestablish lane control, basically. And I also ask VJ, hey, if I can get any help, that'd be awesome, because I lost, I'm sorry, it happens, but I lost my lane. Can you come help me out? So this lane develops, and what's going to happen is we're going to be looking for an opportunity to gank as soon as possible to help reestablish that lane control. So basically right now we're just looking for an opportunity to get a kill on that Slither or that Sandwraith, depending on their positioning. I tell VJ, I hope he comes. I forget if he does or not. So we see the opportunity. I was a little slow to get to this Sandwraith, so I just stay back and farm. I just, I didn't like positioning. Although had I had faster reaction time, that might have been an opportunity for a kill. We see that they pulled the lane. That's one of my favorite wards of all time. I actually didn't block the camp on purpose because we have a Parasite in the jungle. I decided to stay right there. And we're looking for an opportunity to gank these. You'll see that VJ came down. So we're looking for, again, another opportunity to just reestablish this lane in particular. We're trying to figure out if it's a good investment to dive or not. I forget exactly what happens. I'm trying to remember. Just being patient. I wish I could hit 6 here, but having the level 7 VJ is going to be hopefully helpful here. And just sitting here patiently looking for an opportunity. Parasite grabbing the Catman champion. and we'll see what we can do here. We get a big bounce from VJ, although he's still in tower range, and I believe, oh yeah, I remember this. I looked for the big deny on VJ. I should have gone for the last hit, though. Instead, I saved to get the deny, because what's going to happen is, from his cursed ground, we're able to pick up the 2 kills bottom, although this Devo is still going with DD, and Parasite is being huge, and we're just going to sit here and try to nuke him down before he can kill Parasite. It ends up being a very, very close matchup, but Parasite is just able to make it out, and now we have re-established that lane control, which was essentially the goal there. Okay, so now that you guys have seen how lanes develop, I want you to start thinking about, ahead of time, start pre-predicting how they're going to start. So, for example, that top lane, from a Legion perspective, that top lane was the Bubbles, Jeremiah top versus the Cthulhu Font, Emerald Warden. It was at about a 3. Mid was also going to be a 3. And then bottom lane was going to be at about a 4. So that's not bad laning for the Legion. That's not too bad, but they don't have a jungle, and then Parasite is obviously in in one of the 2 jungles, so you have to be aware of that factor. But let's start thinking about how we could adjust this. Maybe we don't like those matchups. What if we did a Slither solo bottom and sent Sandraith top with Bubbles and Jeremiah? We'd probably have like maybe a 3.5 top then, and then a 3 mid and a 3 bottom. Do we like that better or worse? Maybe that's something we should think about. Or what if we sent Bubbles suicide top and sent Jeremiah bottom? How does that lane change now? Does Bubbles is going to probably start out as a 2 in his lane. Mid'll still be a 3, and now bottom might be, instead of being a 4, it might even be a 5, because now you have a Jeremiah on top of that, helping box out that hag, and giving Sandraith just ultimate farm bottom. And these are things you need to think about. And also, the things you need to keep in mind are, okay, well, what advantages does while Bubbles starts out as a 2 in his lane, if he plays appropriately, is it possible for him to raise it? Because he's going to get that faster XP, is it possible for him to make that lane a 2 and then a 3, and then, have that lane in contention? Or, is that hero not good for suicide, and does he need help, and is he going to go from a 2 to a 1? And these are things we need to start thinking about in advance, and start thinking about how the opponents are going to lane, so we can start thinking about how to most advantageously take advantage of how we're going to lane. So that's what I want you to think about for today. I think in my next episode I'm going to take a look at I'm just going to look at 2 matchups and say, okay, how do you think they're going to lane, and how can we actually take advantage of how they're going to lane, and how should we most appropriately counter that, instead of what most commonly happens at low MMR games, where people are just like, I'm going mid, and then if I'm not going mid, I'm going to the short lane because that's the safest lane. Let's stop thinking like that, and let's start thinking about, okay, where are they going to go, and how do I best counter that? All right? You guys take care.